fertilizer to produce ethanol. That's more than I need to know. Just again, regardless of who you follow on Twitter, be respectful. And for people who feel disrespected on Twitter by people, use that block button. It is so awesome to just shut people up forever.
There you go. All right. Well put. So this was an incredible hour. We just hit 3 p.m., so we're going to roll into this next space. But again, big thank you to Brian, Richard, Sarah. Make sure you're checking them out, and we'll be back with them shortly. Although this coming week, I will be doing conferences, so probably the following week. Thanks all. Take care, Brian.
Thanks, Gav. And Sarah, good to have you on, and always good to hear your thoughts too, Richard.
Yeah, awesome. Take care, guys.
Yeah. And I'm super excited to meet you guys in Vegas.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Looking forward to Vegas.
Whoop, whoop.
Okay, awesome. All right. Thank you to everybody that's in the audience. Feel free to continue hanging out. We have a whole new slate of speakers that are coming up. We are going to be rolling into, actually, we've got Ramp Capital will be coming on, and we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with Ramp in this one. So that is what I would say to look out for. We are going to be walking through kind of the origins of FinTwit here. We're going to be discussing some investing. We're going to be discussing, what's a little bit about what's invested in, but not quite to the same level of what we were just doing in that past space. I would say nothing on that level, but certainly some really interesting, unique stuff. I see we got you up here, Ramp. What's going on?
What's up, Wolf? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. How are you?
Doing great, buddy.
Cool, man. Excited to have you on stage and to dig in a little bit further today into the backstory of Ramp Capital, especially now that I have my merch and stickers. I feel, about that time.
Yeah, how's the fit?
The fit's good. It's looking nice. I'm going golfing with Andrew Yang and Mayor Francis Suarez on Tuesday, so I figured maybe I'll wear that one out.
No way.
I am.
Oh, that's awesome. What's your handicap? Are you good, or are you just gonna embarrass the brand?
Oh, so I think like majority of people going aren't good. So I think I'm in a good boat here. We all kind of sat down together beforehand, and we all agreed like nobody's gonna like. It's more of a drink and think kind of thing than outperform. Let's put it that way. I'm taking stock market news too, so whatever I do, it can't be. He'll be right there with me.
Dang, jealous. That's awesome.
Yeah. We'll make it happen. We got the connects. Okay, I see we got Denk in here. What's up, Tyler?
Yo, what's up? I'm actually in a real life office right now, and I just got kicked out of my conference room, so currently shuffling to another room. But good to be back.
Stock market news. Did you just put on your Ramp Capital shirt? We're in Miami at like a hotel.
Let's see a pic.
I think he just.
I did just put on the Ramp Capital shirt, especially for the spaces. I'm in the vibes. I'm here for it.
Okay, yeah, I just saw him go into the room wearing that. Okay, let me get more people up here. I see so many in the audience that should come and join us on stage. Not Jerome, Ticker History. What's up, Tommy?
What's up, boys? How's it going?
Oh, we're chilling. We're chilling. Thanks for hopping in on the FinTwit Fireside Chat.
Of course.
There we go. Tyler, is Iman hopping in? Is she in here?
Yeah, she should be in here. I'll send an invite to speak now. The real question is, who are we missing? Who in FinTwit is not on this panel right now?
That's a great question. I think we got most of them. We got to get VC Braggs up here, and then we'll be rolling. I see we got the Beehive account up. Cool. See, what's up?
Parik's coming in a sec.
Perfect. Okay. I see we've got some FTX people in the crowd too. So that's pretty cool to see. Looking forward to that. But I think, Denk, you think we go ahead and just get rolling?
Yeah, let's do it. Kick it off.
Okay. Welcome on in, everybody. Great that we already have a few hundred people in here. I think you are all going to enjoy this very much over the next hour and 10 minutes that we'll be running. And don't worry, I have another space after that. So we'll be keeping this open. But essentially, today we have the opportunity to have a FinTwit Fireside Chat and really dig into, at least in the beginning of this, Ramp Capital, one of the freshest and most fun voices here on Twitter that has been leading. I think, Ramp, you're my first follow on Twitter. It was you, Morning Brew, and Gannon Breslin. So that's top three right there. So I'm pretty excited to be digging into this and getting some background as to, what you're doing on here, what your goals, mission are. I want to give a big shout out to Beehive and FTX and the Bullish team for making this happen. We're going to dig in more to those things as we get a little bit further into this. But if anybody's here already, make sure you're clicking in first off that Beehive account. for sure. We've got a couple of people up here from Beehive. I see Iman. I see we got Tyler. Stock market news. You might have to drop down for a second so I can make Iman co-host if that's cool. I just want to flip that. And yeah, there we go. And then we'll get rolling. So let me drop you co-host, Iman, and let's get into it. Okay. So let's just start out with the basics. Ramp. I know, this is a non-doc space, but you are in a speaking role. So I'd background on yourself, kind of if you're okay sharing a little bit about, who you are, what you do, and then how did you find FinTwit? What was it when you found it, and how has it progressed since?
Yeah, so I kind of started getting more into finance kind of around the global financial crisis, 2008, 2009. Really started following it a lot closer then, and Twitter was sort of still, in its infancy then, only a couple years old, and there wasn't that many people using it. And it's kind of funny going back and looking and seeing some of the still OG people from FinTwit, like Trent Griffin and Joe Weisenthal and those guys. Like, you can still see their tweets from 2008 and 2009. It's a lot different now than what it used to be. I know I'm aging myself here, but I kind of started getting more into Twitter and kind of the FinTwit space, which it wasn't even really, I guess, a thing then. I don't know if it was called that back then, but sort of around 2009, 2010, I was under a different pseudonym, I guess. I started blogging back then on just things that, kind of caught my eye. Also just basically ran through the gamut of making every investing mistake possible. Which I try to use those lessons and try to help some of my own friends and other people on certain things. And so I think my kind of genesis was around that 2008, 2009 timeframe. And I did see some good traffic from my other blog, and then sort of just somebody, started noticing this weird trend towards the end of the day that was happening 2010 to 2014 or so, where there was just this mysterious buyer that kept coming in 30 minutes before the close. And so I kind of we basically turned that, I guess that, that was an early meme, I guess, of, if you knew, you knew what that was. And that's where kind of the Ramp Capital kind of comes from. I think actually Zero Hedge was maybe the one that coined it. But so I launched just a kind of a joke Twitter account for that. And, within the first day or so, picked up 2,000 followers, which, that's nothing today, but back in 2012 or 13, that was a lot. I mean, like I said, Twitter was completely different back then. I mean, having it sort of seemed like the people who had anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5,000 followers were the people to follow. Like, they were somebody, and now it's just kind of wild how much it's grown. Especially even if you compare it to other social media sites like TikTok and Instagram. It's, now it's who has millions of followers, right? And so I started blogging, and then kind of fell off for a little bit, launched the website where I could kind of host some of my own personal blogs, and then life got in the way, and then kind of kicked it right back up again, sort of 2019 timeframe. And then 2020, what I did was I launched talked with a bunch of friends that I'm friends with now, and we launched a crowdsourced portfolio. We dubbed it WeRamp, and what that was essentially, we just did a weekly poll every Friday where we would put 4 stocks, and then whichever one won the vote, we would go and buy it at the close. And then we basically would do that every single week, and had a 5 to 10 stock portfolio that the Twitter followers or Twitter crowd, whoever was voting on it, was basically running my portfolio. It was kind of doing the opposite take of what everyone else does when they launch, paid services or paid Discords or whatever, and people are saying you should buy this stock. I was trying to flip that on its head a little bit and say, hey, you tell me what to buy, I'll go buy it, and then we'll see how this plays out. 2020, it worked out really well, actually, surprisingly. I mean, we launched it, and then it started off hot, and then it tanked because of the pandemic, and then it ended up rebounding. I think we ended up 35% on the year, which was great. And then last year it kind of broke even, so it underperformed. So the 2 years that I did it actually ended up working out, probably market performing, but it was still a really cool experience. And the reason I bring that up is because then what I was trying to do is sort of use that crowdsourced portfolio to also pivot it into a newsletter. And so we started tracking it, and I had a different doc that I was tracking all the metrics on it. And then every week, then we would put out just, we would put out information on how the portfolio was doing, news events that were affecting the stocks that I was holding, things like that, and then charts from Y charts. And then this year I sort of flipped it on its head again, because I'm always looking to sort of innovate. And so I'm still looking to kind of do something with it, the crowdsourced portfolio. I'm talking with another friend, my buddy Mike over at Composer. We're looking at a potential way to collaborate there. But all that being said, one of the things I kind of struggled with a little bit on the newsletter side was just it was because all the things were happening at the end of the week. It was basically like causing my weekends to fill up with trying to produce all this extra work. And so I was kind of trying to think in my head, just like, is there a way that I can try to write more during the week on certain things that are happening instead of waiting until the end and just being busy all weekend? And so that's kind of how it sort of pivoted again in 2022. What I started doing is, with Twitter Blue, and allowing these like custom bookmarks and things like that, what I started doing is just looking through my stream, seeing some of the things that are visually appealing to me, and I think there's a story behind it. And so I'll basically, what I do is, like, every day that I'm on there, and if I see something interesting or someone shares something interesting with me, I bookmark it into a separate folder, where then I basically then like have, anywhere from 4 to 5 topics of certain things that are interesting that I think are right about visually. I'm more of a visual type of person. So that's kind of how it's evolved a little bit. And then also this year, another thing that we're looking at doing is doing some deep dives on startups that we're investing in or advising, or honestly just startups that I find interesting, and we can maybe share their story. Those are obviously a little bit less frequent because it takes time to find them as well as write those. And then the last kind of sub vertical is we're looking at focusing on basically just doing some random kind of opinion pieces, is kind of what I call them, on just all things tech, markets, and business, really.
So you mentioned getting into finance originally back in the 2008 era. What were you doing before that, and kind of how'd you make that transition to now being a leading voice?
Yeah, so I mean, I actually have more of a technical background. I actually have an engineering degree, so I think part of the reason that finance just attracted me a little bit more was it was just a really slow time in engineering too, or in the markets in general, just because hiring was freezing, people were losing their jobs, and I was kind of just trying to diversify a little bit, and I just kind of realized it was like maybe whether it's my second passion now, is if I want to call it that, it just started. There was something there that just started attracting me. I like couldn't get enough of it, and then I basically started teaching myself, which I don't like to use the term autodidact, but that's essentially what I did do, though. Essentially just picked up a ton of books, and I mean, even the most boring corporate finance books that I could find, I would read those, and sort of kind of self-taught. And that's where it's also the value of FinTwit too. I believe that's one of the one places that somebody can share something, and if it's not right, it's getting called out for sure. And so it's really just a good learning experience, because like a lot of people provide really good input. Obviously there's shit posting and memes and everything else, and that's part of what I do too, just to keep it fun and light. But I really do kind of just scour some of these really interesting topics that people are talking about and just try to learn a lot from it.
Okay, very fun. So I want to hear I'm very curious always when I talk with people who have grown presences on social media, kind of like what the day in the life is, right? Eventually it becomes something where it's massive, right? You need to be tending to it. You need to be interacting with people. There's people in the comment section. They're setting up, if you're going to hop on spaces, there's really a lifestyle that forms around it. And then of course now you're also writing your newsletter with Beehive. Shout out Beehive. So how does everything work into these days?
Yeah. Oh man, it's a lot. Honestly, never really had any plans for it to do anything and still don't. It's just like one of those things that's just on the internet having fun, right? And it it's a lot though. I mean, it really does become a lot, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy too, because like the more I put into it, the more that, comes back out of it. And so I have struggled a little bit with this more recently because of, I guess, some of the traction and just there's just so many things going on, and it's like I want to pick the right path that interests me and is fruitful as well. And I think that's one of the things that I do on the side that no one sees this at all, but it's, I'm making these relationships with people, and trying to help build teams and build products and, provide some of my expertise in certain areas to help them. And like I said, I don't promote a lot of that stuff. I just do it on the side, but that's kind of like, that's probably the biggest, thing that I get from FinTwit and my connections is really just those additional connections of just people that are super smart, super interesting, building cool things. And a perfect example of this is honestly is Beehive, because just with my blog, I started it out on Squarespace, which is a great website. I love how easy it is on a lot of they have, a lot of no code stuff, and the website was great. And then they launched a newsletter, and then I was kind of like, maybe I should do that. And it was kind of cliche at the time because, everyone has a newsletter now, but it was kind of just this add-on piece, and it was very clunky, no features. And then I had a call with Linda from Substack through a mutual connection through Jim O'Shaughnessy, and excuse me. And so then I moved over to Substack, and mostly because they had all these features. And then once I saw Tyler kind of building Beehive, then I was like, okay, let's check this out. And so then, when I reached out to him and said, hey, I'm kind of wanting to move over, and definitely no slack to Substack, like they have a great product. But one of the things that, goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier is trying to help people build, these smaller creators kind of build whatever product or community or whatever they want, and try to help them with some of the things that I've seen in the past that I think are super helpful. And so that's kind of where I popped over to Beehive, because I knew Tyler was an ex-Morning Brew person, and I'm friends with a lot of those guys. And, it's just kind of nice to be able to be in DMs with him and say, hey, I know we've even passed ideas back and forth, and I told him straight up, I'm just like, hey, like, feel free to, you don't have to appease me. Just if I feel like there may be some value here, I'm going to tell you. And then if you implement it, that'd be awesome. If not, no feelings hurt, And so he's done, I mean, and I think, and Tyler, you can even hop in here too, but I think there's been some ideas that I think, he's either, his team's already working on, or maybe it's not on the roadmap, but it's just nice to kind of have those smaller creators where you can just have a really intimate relationship with them and get some of these products and features that I think are really great for creators.
Yeah, sure. Happy to hop in for a second. But to give a bit more context, me and my two co-founders, Ben and Jake, were very early employees at Morning Brew and really built out the tech infrastructure that helped Morning Brew scale. So the referral program was wildly successful at Morning Brew. We built a content management system for the writers to use and customize these emails, ad management platform, and really just the data and analytics and kind of like cohort analysis to really understand where are you getting readers from, how are they engaging differently, whether they're coming from Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and then where you can double down how people are resonating with their content. And that's all to say, Morning Brew, which, I mean, first and foremost, the content was incredible, and you can't get very far without great content. There was an entire tech ecosystem behind that, fueling the growth and all of the tech capabilities to really scale that into now, just yesterday, I believe they announced 4 million subscribers. So there's a lot going on. And as an individual newsletter creator, you don't have that same infrastructure or tech stack or customization. And the truth is, a lot of content creators, I mean, Ramp, you said you have an engineering background. A lot of content creators don't have a technical background. So where do you go to integrate an ad network or referral program with your WordPress website and an email engine, and then perform some sort of data analytics. And so that's really where Beehive's kind of stepping in and trying to build and kind of productize a lot of the stuff we did at Morning Brew, in the sense that any content creator that has a newsletter, whether you're just starting off with 0 subscribers or coming in with 10, 15, 20,000 subscribers, you should have the same tools and access that a company like a Morning Brew or the Hustle or the Skim or Axios has. And we're building first class tools for the power users and then just dumbing it down so it's so simple to use. The access and customization and product suite is there if you want to take advantage of it. Or if you just want to spin up a newsletter, you can do that in a few minutes. And then I guess the last note, while I'm just rambling on about Beehive, is we really are creator first. So as Ramp mentioned, like we really do lean into feedback from our users. We're a team of engineers. We're extremely fast to get back to feedback. Anything that can really help people scale, we lean into that. And then we don't take a cut of revenue similar to what Substack does and all of our other competitors who take a 5 or 10% cut of revenue. We don't do that. So really just creator first through and through, and doubling down on building the most powerful newsletter engine, and fortunate to have a lot of really talented creators like those in this chat. So yeah, that's just a little background of me rambling about Beehive, but feel free to take it away from there, Ramp.
Yeah, and I mean, with those features, honestly, I haven't even used them yet. I've been so busy. I'm looking forward to using. I know one of the features that I have really enjoyed though, and I'll highlight this one, is the pollinate feature. I don't even know how many, but I know when I see you can see where a new subscriber is coming from, and it'll say pollinate or direct link or whatever the other options are. But essentially, what pollinate is, and if I miss this, let me know. But at least the way I kind of see it is, Twitter bot review, which is another newsletter service. I think was that last year? I think it was last year, or 2020. They bot review, and then I hadn't really heard of that or seen many people using it. But even then, when I was at Substack at the time, what I was kind of annoyed with, because I think I remember asking Substack at the time, was saying, hey, almost all of my followers or subscribers are going to come from probably Twitter. 90+% of them will. And so it's kind of ridiculous that you have to put like a link whenever they had these sort of buttons or widgets or whatever you want to call it on your own profile. I thought it was kind of odd that there was no kind of integration with that. And then Tyler, so then they have this this feature called pollinate, where essentially what you do is you basically create a review account, and then you link it to your Beehive account. And then what it does is then you're allowed to put that widget on your profile. So it's just that kind of that highlighted right underneath all your profile words. There's a little thing if you put your newsletter. And so I've seen a significant, and then what it does is whenever somebody clicks onto that, it basically pulls over the review people into Beehive like seamlessly. So you don't even know the difference. And I've seen a pretty good significant portion of new subscribers come from that feature alone, which kind of says that it's working, and so that's a pretty cool feature that I really enjoy using. There's nothing to do at this point because it's just already set up, but it's a great feature. But I am looking forward to use more of these kind of creator features that Beehive has. It's just I've sort of been in the I'm just grinding it out. It seems like every week to like get something out and get it going and get something that's super interesting.
Yeah, and to give a bit more context there, 2 things. One, as a young company, we're just trying to acquire users however possible. When people would come to us and say, I'm choosing between using Beehive because I like what you guys are building, or Review because I can integrate this thing in my Twitter profile, we figured why not build a solution where you can have both? So why not use Beehive and all of the powerful tools that we're building? And we built an integration that is free, and you plug it into your Twitter profile, and it'll send emails directly at exactly as you described it to your newsletter on Beehive. So you have the best of both worlds and can grow with Twitter and use Beehive. So that was kind of the thinking there. And then also just kind of leaning into the creator first mindset. At the end of the day, we want all of the newsletters on our platform to grow and succeed. And how can we help users get new subscribers? Twitter's one of the most powerful channels. And so it was kind of like a slam dunk initiative. Curious, Ramp, about your newsletter specifically, are you doing this all by yourself right now, or do you have a team that you've hired to help write, or what's the process look like for that?
Yeah, right now, just doing it by myself. I I have considered having some people maybe help out with, whether it's doing like the bare bones data collection, and then maybe I come in and write, or having a post editor. I haven't really gotten to that stage yet. But no, it's a great question. Sometimes I feel like I say we as in we as in myself. So
Cool.
So
Good, Gab.
I have a question here. So first off, Ramp, I went to your profile and then I did fall for the OnlyFans link. I gotta say. So if anybody hasn't checked out Ramp's OnlyFans, it is link in bio to check that out while we're here. The other thing is your content. I wanted to kind of dig a little bit more into that. So I'm on Beehive right now. So just ramp.beehive.com for anyone that wants to check it out. You can also, of course, just go into Ramp's profile. Beehive does build that integration. They also do a lot of other stuff, which I did pin up top. But really one of the best growth tools here for email. And I actually use the product too myself now. So I can actually talk about it, having used it and sent out some emails on it. Very straightforward. It took me like 10 minutes to get set up and send out my email, which is really nice. And also, if you're sending out to under 2,500 people, it's completely free, which I thought was great too. Because a lot of people have smaller newsletters than that, to be quite honest. But the question I was going to ask is, what's the direction you're trying to go with the content? So your last article is by the death cross, right? A little bit controversial. You talk about the 2-year anniversary, blunt bottom, and some other stuff in there. Is there a specific style here with the content that you're going for?
Kind of. So it kind of basically it is a little bit random. I wish there was a better way to kind of pull metadata from either Twitter or, what's most topical. And that's where it's like it comes down to like I said, basically what I do every week, every day of the week is if I see something interesting, I basically bookmark it and then into the separate folder where it's all these charts. So the charts of the week is kind of what I'm calling them, or some kind of interesting data where it then allows me to look at that, then do some more research on the side and figure out if there's like more to the story there, and if I think it's worth sharing. And with the most recent post with the death cross, this is something I'm sure a lot of us have heard before. It's essentially just when the 50-day moving average breaks below the 200-day moving average, and a lot of people, especially the CNBCs and the headlines, love to just blast this out like it's some super bearish thing. And so another one of my partnerships is with Y Charts, and they have a great service where I try to reproduce a lot of these charts if I can through their service, just because it also gets me using their product more, which I do enjoy. And so what they also kind of help me out on doing sometimes is if I have an idea, I can say, hey, do you have this data or this data, and can you put it in this sort of format so that it kind of tells a story, and they have a team that can kind of help out with that too. So it's really nice having that kind of information and team at my disposal. So that's kind of one of the themes I'm trying to do, is try to pick out some of the best charts that I see during the week. And it's not even just like, oh, here's a chart of Apple. It's like, no, it's here's I'm trying to think of like a good example, but like the one I did recently was a couple of weeks ago about the commodity crisis and the potential food crisis that we may see at the later half of this year due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And so it's just, like I said, it kind of goes all across the board. It really is just like what like sticks out to me, and I really see something like, ooh, that's interesting. And I think that a lot of that comes from my analytical and technical background, right? Like I said, I see those, and then some of the times though, it's like I'll sit there and I'll bookmark a lot of this stuff, but then I just don't do anything with it. So it still is a little bit of it's kind of a mix of content curation and content creation on the sides. Is a good mix of it, because I do see a lot of people that do strictly just content curation, and that's fine. I mean, I think there is value to that, but sort of as a creator, or at least I view myself more on the creator side, it's I just feel like there needs to be more input into that. So I try to stick to like, there's really no format as far as like it needs to have, one quote, one uh whatever, like one quote, one chart, one whatever. Like it isn't even like that. It's just what I find interesting, and some may be longer, some may be shorter.
Perfect. Okay, awesome, Ramp. I love this intro we've had here. Gonna try to bring some others into the conversation too. Add in if there's anything first off that's already been said that others want to hop in on. Of course, we have that raise hand feature. We've got VC Brags up here, and I'd love to pull VC Brags into this too because we've seen kind of the value here in again, building this online presence. And again, we're all kind of just like strangers posting memes at the end of the day. So I guess that's the relatability factor here. But VC Brags, obviously, you just heard some stuff from Ramp. I'd love to hear if there's anything you want to bounce off of it. And then number two, if you want to talk for a second about just, what surprised you the most about growing a following here on FinTwit?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I don't really consider VC Brags under the umbrella of like FinTwit. It's more like venture Twitter. And for folks who are familiar with like venture capitalists on Twitter, a lot of them are absolutely insanely egotistical and self-aggrandizing. So I guess that's why VC Brags took off so much, because VCs brag. So it was a bit of low-hanging fruit. I think what really surprised me about like what sparks growth specifically for my account is just negativity. Like Twitter loves negativity, and they love seeing people of power like kind of being, I don't know, made fun of or like poke fun at and stuff like that. So I would say that was kind of like the most surprising thing for me.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I guess there's a lot going on. But like as it's continued to grow, it's become more of a community. We, even had chats kind of off of Twitter and other places. What I guess would you say is like next for you, right? So you've kind of built out this brand with around the VCs. Is it just getting stronger? There's just more VCs, more coming here. And then also for your end, I'm curious, on the newsletter side. So we've kind of been talking here about, newsletters and stuff. Is there some opportunity there? Ever thought about writing stuff? Anything along those lines?
Yeah, definitely. I think the next step for me is definitely some sort of newsletter play. I've been kicking some ideas around with some folks, reached out to Tyler and things like that. But yeah, I think, again, just jumping off on that point is just like, I think the venture community takes himself a bit too seriously, and just producing like comedy content and keeping things light and stuff like that, it really attracted a lot of people because they're like, venture is just so bland and vanilla sometimes. Sometimes we need someone to like mix things up and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's just the comedy play. It's done really well for me.
Awesome. All
I
right,
was going to jump in real quick. There's
go.
a ton of FinTwit accounts between like Ramp, Liquidity, Perique. We got a lot of them in here. What's like the VC Twit community look like? Like, do you have a rival over there, or like what's the content?
I don't really think I have like a rival or anything. I keep it pretty cool with most folks, except for any venture capitalists I've really pissed off. Like I've been threatened, like people threatened to sue me and stuff when the account used to be like really ruthless, which was really funny. But I think as time's gone on, definitely the content's got a bit more chill and not so ruthless. But yeah, I think there's no real like rivals in my space. I don't think. It's just keeping it fun.
Has it been tamed down a bit because of those potential lawsuits, or like the VCs reaching out, or what's like the reason behind toning it down a bit?
I don't think so. Like, honestly, it might sound a bit self-aggrandizing, but I think like because the account got so popular, VCs have stopped bragging so much because it's like they don't want to be featured on the account. So it's like because the account got so popular from VCs bragging, they've stopped bragging so much. So it like kind of leaves me in the dust in terms of just low-hanging fruit of content, because for the longest time I would just retweet what they already tweeted with like some sarcastic claps, and that was like the whole shtick of the account for the longest time. But then they stopped, so then I had to get like new original content to think of.
What is some of that original content that you're thinking of? Because if like your content source is drying up because your account is, I don't know if you want to say working or, providing you less firepower, what are some additional content avenues that you've considered?
Yeah, so definitely the newsletter play. I think that would kind of just be like a jumping off point. That's what I'm looking into. I used to create some like video comedy memes and stuff like that. Those did really well. They'd get like 100 to 200K views when I put them out, but I was using copyrighted music, so I got in trouble for that. but also just like, just making jokes around like the venture space and just like how insane things are sometimes, just keeping it light, stuff like that.
Love it. Dick, I want to pull in a couple of things here as well. Do you want to do one more question, and then I have a couple of ideas, and then I do want to get more people up here, but we'd have to rotate a little.
Yep, no problem. All you.
Okay. So Brian, you're up here. You're on the Bullish account. So there's a lot going on, obviously, right here. There's a lot of the really popular FinTwit stuff. And for anyone who doesn't know, a lot of us collaborate with Bullish, with the team over at Bullish. I do spaces every week from like the Bullish Rippers account, and we do stuff with Bullish Studio. And obviously, there's a great synergy here between Bullish Studio as well as everything that Beehive is doing with their newsletter, with their systems, and then the creators that are coming and writing on there, because that's what people want nowadays. Is they want that type of content. There's also a whole entire creator economy here of monetizing that I don't think gets opened up to enough actually to retail. They don't really see behind the scenes and see that more people could maybe go down this route and make it a viable living lifestyle. So Brian, I want to pull you in for just like a minute if you want to give a background minute or two, and then we can kind of cover a little bit on that monetization side.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Gav, and thanks, Tyler and Ramp. This is a great space so far, and thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm Brian, the CEO of Bullish Studio, and yeah, as Gav said, we work with a variety of different creators across the business, FinTwit, crypto, Twitter space to help creators make money, monetize, grow, everything in between. And yeah, where it's been great working with everybody. So yeah, I guess to keep this on subject, I think Ramp, it'd be great maybe if you want to share a little bit about kind of like what you've been doing over the last couple months from like a monetization standpoint, and like specifically as it like relates to your Twitter account and newsletter. I know that's like a big topic that everybody's always asking us about is, hey, how do I make money on Twitter? How do I make money from my newsletter? You want to talk a little bit about your history on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So Brian and I met, gosh, when was that? 2018?
Pre-COVID.
It was definitely pre-COVID. I'm positive of that. It might have been 2018-ish. That you kind of pitched me with the services that you were offering, and I thought it was a perfect fit. And I'm pretty sure I was the first person that you were working with, right?
Yep, number one, baby, ride or die.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just one of the things, like doing this sort of again on the like sort of by myself on the side, calling it a side gig, whatever you want to call it. I started realizing that there was a couple holes, and without having to hire somebody, if I wanted to try to monetize it, it started off pretty slow, and it's steady now, but it started off slow because one of the things I realized was just doing the sales portion alone is a whole another person's job, essentially, of talking with these brands, talking with all kinds of people to see if they wanted to work together in some fashion. And so that's where Brian and Bullish kind of helped me out at least a little bit, because one of the things I noticed from the very beginning of doing my newsletter was I did the sort of traditional route of littering my website with Google ads and things like that, and then picking up literally 10 cents per post. And I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'd rather have a clean looking site and go down that path. And then we started looking at doing full site takeovers of banner ads, things like that. And then once we got into the newsletter, that's where then we were trying to, instead of doing for a lot of people, like especially that have newsletters, there's two paths you can go down, pretty much two main paths at least. The first path is essentially doing a paid newsletter, where you charge them 10, 20, 50, $100 a month or whatever. It depends on what kind of service you're providing, how much content you're creating, etc. I kind of always have shied away from that. I'm not saying it's not right. It just depends on your time frame and how much time you have available, because once you sort of go down that path, you're kind of held to, in my opinion, you're sort of held to a higher standard of producing content. And I will be the first person to say that I'm my own worst enemy as far as I critique myself more than probably anybody else as far as my own writing. And so sometimes, I struggle with, is this even worth posting? And I feel like every writer probably struggles with that, but I just feel like whenever you have that paid service on top of it, it sort of just adds more pressure to it. And so what we kind of did, and working with Brian, is we'd reach out to these other companies, or they'd reach out to us kind of simultaneously, and just see see if there was an overlap between our brands, and see if there was a way to collaborate. And so one of the things we started doing was doing just the banner ads on newsletters, so once a week or whatever. And then Brian and Bullish were helping me sell those, and then we started working with like companies like Public and now FTX, and some of these other bigger companies too, that more of a longer term type of partnerships that can help again build brands really. And so it's been really interesting, and I've met so many people and had so many great conversations with these people, with these starting companies. And a lot of the good feedback that we've had too has just been some of these repeat advertisers, because it's working, just those single banner ads on a newsletter instead of having all these random Google ads sprinkled out has worked so much better for a lot of creators and newsletters that I've found. So
Yo, Ram, so you talk about sponsoring your newsletter, getting the banner ads in there. You also mentioned earlier in the introduction kind of doing deeper dives, whether it's like a sponsored deep dive or like even a portfolio company that you've invested in. It kind of reminds me of what Packy does at Not Boring with the sponsored deep dives, just like another avenue for monetization outside of like a boilerplate banner ad. Just kind of curious what you're thinking monetization wise of like how those differ, whether there's like an advantageous one. One's obviously a lot more work, but potentially more relationship heavy. Just kind of curious. Like, I think it'd be insightful for everyone here to listen to like how you're thinking about that.
yeah, absolutely. So the first one that we did was Asset Dash, and so I am an advisor to Asset Dash and equity holder, and so Asset Dash kind of spun out from Round Hill. Matthias was the CFO, or sorry, he was the CMO for Round Hill, and then he was kind of building this on the side. And then whenever I was also working with Round Hill on the Stonks app too, which I was going to do it on the side, and we merged those two together, it was just kind of a natural fit. And so then, as I was thinking about the potential marketing push for Asset Dash specifically, was when I kind of reached out to Matthias and said, hey, would you be interested in doing, if we did like a deep dive on this? And so again, I kind of already knew a lot of the background, so that was an easier one. But one of the ways that I've actually even had this exact same conversation with Packy. So if even a few months ago, I'd reached out to him and we had a Zoom call and we talked about kind of his model. I mean, he's not the only one doing it too, but I kind of just picked his brain a little bit. And one of the things that he has kind of a framework too for it, and I thought it was perfect. He essentially just says, like, if you're going to do a deep dive on a company, or a shallow dive, whatever you want to call it, you either have to like really believe in it or want to be an investor in it. Otherwise, it's not even worth writing it, because it's going to basically come out in the way you write it. It's not going to come off as sincere, which I thought was great, because a lot of people, what I've seen at least, is they'll take an ad, or they'll take any type of revenue from any company just to monetize. Like, they don't care who it is. And I've kind of taken a little bit of an opposite approach with that again too, just because if I'm building a brand and it doesn't overlap, then there's just the potential to hurt my brand, or people call you a sellout or whatever. And so I sort of, again, took a little bit different. I took it a little bit different stuff. I mean, a funny story that Brian and I talk about was Crypto.com actually reached out to us back in 2020, and we had a call with them, and I couldn't figure it out at the time, and I don't think Brian could either. Like, what are you guys even doing? Like, we don't even know. But all the crypto friends that I'm friends with asked them, do you guys even know who Crypto.com is? And they're like, no. And so I was like, all right. And then we're passing, and like, it didn't matter how much money they were throwing. It was just like, we don't know who you are, so we're just going to pass, because like it could be scammy or whatever. and now it's, they own they own arenas, and they got LeBron James and whoever else and Matt Damon advertising for him, which is, it's just a funny story. But it still kind of goes to show that like a lot of these creators that I see that are starting to build these newsletters or build these followings, build these communities, I fear that sometimes they try to monetize too early, and they're probably better off if they can, financial wise, to hold off on that as long as they can, because once you start going down that path, it's sort of I guess called it like a slippery slope. But with regards to the deep dives, though, like I said, basically I'm an investor in a lot of startups. I'm an advisor to some startups, and I'm also investing in these angel funds. And so essentially what I've done at this point is like reached out to all of these GPs and these founders and basically say, hey, if you guys have any need for this, or you guys want to do marketing in a different channel instead of just doing the typical YouTube ad or whatever ad, maybe there's a way that we can collaborate and do sort of a write-up on your company and kind of spread awareness.
Why don't you talk a little bit about one of the partnerships that we just landed on? And I know there's a pinned tweet up top.
Yeah, so we just kicked off a partnership with FTX for a few months. So super excited about that. I think I don't know if I'm gonna be able to live up to Greg's Tesla. I think he's got a Tesla being delivered his way, which is freaking amazing. But yeah, we're super excited. I think we're going to be going down to Bitcoin 2022 next week, and or at least some of us are, and maybe go to a couple Miami Heat games down there.
Oh,
but we're definitely excited to
let
kick
me know
this partnership off. Oh, you going to?
If we're hitting the Heat games, I'm coming.
Okay.
I just went to a Heat game a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
I'm very down. But yeah, man, I think that's awesome. And I'll just chime in here as well to pump them up, because I'm pretty excited for what we're doing here with FTX. And it's kind of, maybe we didn't hit the crypto.com, but certainly not missing out on anything that FTX is doing here. For anyone that's in the audience that is unfamiliar just yet, I don't know how you could be at this point, but FTX US, which is what we're discussing here, is one of the largest crypto companies in the US. It's safe, regulated, easy to use. You can buy and sell Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever else you want to do on there. I really like it personally because you can also stake it once you're in there. So they'll offer you these like extra 8% rewards. So like I got on FTX because that was one of the easiest places to buy Solana a while back. So I went on there and bought Solana at like $40 per coin. So that was nice when that hit 200. And you probably have also seen FTX because now on the timeline, they have like the Steph Curry commercial of like how you don't have to be an expert to use it, which is very, very true. But they also did stuff with Tom Brady, Larry David. I think Shaq was like all over stuff that they were doing. So obviously there's these big level partnerships, but I like what they're going about with it. Is the goal is they're partnering with athletes and not saying these athletes are experts at trading crypto or anything. They're basically just saying they're another everyday investor, right? Anybody can use this. It's very easy to use. At the end of the day, over 6 million people are trading crypto or investing in crypto on FTX US. They're buying, selling, tracking everything on there. And the biggest thing for me that has been pulling me to it has been the lower fees. So listen, Ramp has a technical background. Maybe he can go more into how they do low fees and smart contract work and who knows what. But all I'll say is there's no fixed minimum fees. I believe they're the only platform I think that does that. There's no ACH transaction fees, so you can move money in easily, and there's no withdrawal fees. So if you're trying to get away from fees, which are, I've tweeted this before, my least favorite part of crypto, get in with FTX. And I'm sure you can check out in my bio and Ramp's bio. In a lot of our bios, there are really nice discount codes. If you go to Ramp's bio, and you'll see in his link, he's got FTX at the top, OnlyFans at the bottom. So go and visit that combo. And yeah, you can click in there and it'll give you like a nice little bonus. I think I have it written out what it does on mine. But essentially, that's what I'd really point out here. And then, basically, here, I see it right here. If you use the code, no fees, and earn free crypto on every trade over $10. I don't know exactly how that works, earning the free crypto part, but it sounds great to me. And I might have to do a little bit more trading inside of there than I have been doing already. So that's what I would say. Super easy to use and easy to go around. And I'm pretty excited to be, working with them. Very reputable. We had them actually before we did anything with FTX 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, Evan. I don't know. You know better than me probably. We had Brett, who's their president for the US operations for FTX US, came on Twitter Spaces. I didn't give the man any questions ahead of time, and I just like pelted him with questions for an hour about like the safety, the growth, the strategy, everything, and he answered it all incredibly. So I thought it was fantastic. Super cool that we are now having this opportunity to do more stuff with FTX and utilize them, because in this world of crypto, I'm super attracted to crypto. I'm like 70% in crypto right now for my portfolio wise. However, I understand that there's a lot of risk. There's a lot to be concerned about in many cases. So it's helpful to have, trusted partners and people that you can actually believe like, hey, if something goes wrong, well, the president of this company is coming on live Twitter Spaces and answering questions. And they sent out an email just the other day. We need your voice and so much more. So I think hopefully I have made the case pretty nicely as to why I'm using it. I've been using it for a while. They were formerly Blockfolio, I think, for anyone else that was using it, and now you see FTX on your phone, so that's why you have that. But Ramp, anything else you want to add on about FTX?
No, just excited to work with their team. We had a kickoff call earlier this week, and it's nice to work with somebody who's kind of open to different and fun and cool ideas and a partnership. We've been kind of swallowed in the past by some other ones that can get eaten up in compliance. So hopefully we don't have too much red tape to work through here. But yeah, totally excited to kick this off.
Can we do a version of the Steph Curry commercial where they Photoshop in your profile picture over Steph Curry and Tariq's over Shaq, and then we promote that?
That's a great idea. We should do that. We'll get our intern doing that.
Brian, can we make it happen? I would actually love to see that as an ad. But yeah, I think that would be super cool. So that's what I got going there. But that's, for anyone that's been listening, we kind of talked now about the monetary side. There is an economy here. If you're thinking about, building a platform and doing more here, you've come to the right place to learn. So I do want to bring up a couple questions from the crowd. Looks like we do have that extra spot. So we're good to get them up. Let me go ahead and just grab a couple. I can only do one at a time. So hopefully it'll kind of, we'll get some good ones. But we live to CFO. What's going on? You are unmuted, but I cannot hear you yet.
Looks like he's still connecting. High level, though, while we're waiting for him to connect and get up here, pretty badass that Ramp started out just posting memes and doing some fintech analysis and finance, and then scaled his Twitter account, launched a newsletter, doing sponsored deep dives, investing and advising companies, and now has an FTX deal. So just kind of like the opportunity of like this creator economy, even starting out with anonymous meme accounts, like pretty badass trajectory, and like having FTX involved is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I will say it's pretty serendipitous. I think I've been a little lucky about my connections and how it's kind of gone for the past 9-10 years. It's just been a slow grind, but that's a lot of people don't see that, in the background. Like I said, and like even from the beginning, I never really had any plans to do much with it. I was just having fun on the internet, and I still am.
Love it. All right, I brought up another person. We're trying for round 2 here with Alexander. Alex, do you have a question?
Hey guys, thanks for this space. I appreciate it. So I'm just so you know, I'm not at all a finance person. I'm a total outsider. This is just like a hobby. I just kind of have an interest in this, and I have a question. Excuse me if this is not the appropriate space for this, but I have a book by Jack Bogle or John C. Bogle. I don't know what you guys know him as, but it's the book Don't Count on It. It's a signed copy. I'm from Ukraine. My wife is from Ukraine, and with this situation, I just remembered I had this book and I want to sell it, and wanted to see if you guys had any sort of ideas. I just want to like have an auction, have people bid it up, and then I'll give the funds to whoever they want, or they, it's automated. You guys got any input on that? Thanks.
Well, I would say you're correct. Not the greatest topic for this one, but I would say definitely post it out and see what happens. There's a large audience that are definitely interested in this type of stuff. And I would say put it out there, and you'd be surprised what can happen. But for now, We are going to remain a little bit on topic. Don't want to be, insensitive, but, we only have these speakers for a really limited amount of time moving forward. So we are going to move on to the next speaker at the moment, but definitely feel free to, post something out there and we can, if some of us see it, tag us, right? And we'll make something happen. All right. We live to serve. You requested beforehand. We got you back up here. Can you hear us?
I can. Sorry about that. My headphones messed up. Yeah, I just wanted to say hi and Ramp. I'm curious. Do you ever think about going down the podcast route with all the media work?
Yeah, we've kicked it around. It's just a lot of work, I feel like if I did that, I would have to hire more people to keep that production value up. And I'll just say it's not off the table, but it's probably not on my high priority list right now, unfortunately.
Do you have any idea of like the difference in kind of monetization levels between like newsletter and podcast?
I'd be curious if Brian actually knows more about that. I mean, I've seen some numbers. I think it just depends too on if you lock up some of those longer term deals, you can get pretty big deals from the podcasts, at least from where I'm seeing.
Right.
Potentially more than you can get from banner ads. That's for sure.
I think you and Dan getting drunk on the first episode of Infinite Loops is up there in my top all time podcasts.
Yeah, I think Jim was messaging me last night and was asking if he wanted to come on again. I don't know if he was joking or not, but I was like, all right, well, get the tequila out. We'll do it again, I guess.
So when token launch? That's the next question.
Oh God.
I'm just kidding, Ramp.
Well, LiveRamp already took my ticker, so that doesn't help. Or is it LiveRamp? LiveRamp? It's probably LiveRamp.
Ramp what's been going on with that WeRamp actually?
Yeah, I just got too busy with it, man. It was taking up so much time, and I love doing it. It was great. I just that engineer mindset. I wanted to innovate and bring something cool. So that's where I said I'm working right now with from Mike Winter from Composer. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that we can use Composer to think of something cool to do with that crowdsource. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way that there's some kind of synergy there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. I know that it doesn't seem like a lot of work of just putting Apple, but that's where I was like, it's actually so much more than, because I wanted to track it. Obviously, that's the whole part of it, and I was doing it through Public, and but I had to track it on my own to get the stats that I wanted to see from it and see how it was doing. So
one other quick thing, it's worth mentioning that Ramp is doing all of this with a number of little ones at home with a full-time job. So it's impressive what you've been able to build, on the side. So I commend you on that. But yeah, I think Iman had something she wanted to chime in with.
Yeah. Let me actually tee this up real quick. So we haven't gone to you just yet, which I apologize for, but I definitely want to get Iman in here. Iman is really a lot of what makes Beehive work.